When Arun was born, the first thing the doctor said wasn't congratulations. It was silence. Then, a sigh. Then, words his parents would never forget. He's alive. But life won't be easy for him. Arun entered the world not with celebration, but with concern. His cry was weak, his body fragile, his future uncertain. In a small village hospital with flickering lights and outdated equipment, his life began already marked by doubt. No one said it out loud, but everyone thought it. This child will struggle. And struggle he did. But what no one could see that night was this. The same life that began broken would one day become unstoppable. Arun grew up in a village where dreams were considered dangerous distractions. People believed in survival, not ambition. In earning daily bread, not imagining tomorrow. The roads were uneven, made of dust and stones. During monsoon season, they turned into rivers of mud. Houses were small, packed closely together, with rusted tin roofs that sang loudly when rain fell. Electricity came and went like an unreliable guest. Water had to be carried from a well far away. Food had to be earned every single day. Arun's father worked as a laborer, lifting bricks under the scorching sun for hours, earning barely enough to keep the household running. His mother cleaned homes and stitched clothes late into the night, her fingers cracked, her eyes always tired. Their life wasn't tragic, but it was heavy. And Arun felt that weight early on. He walked barefoot most days. His school uniform was always a little too old, a little too loose. Books were shared. Meals were simple, and sometimes they were skipped. But what hurt him most wasn't the poverty. It was the comparison. Everywhere he looked, someone had more. Better shoes, better confidence, better chances. And slowly, without even realizing it, Arun began believing that his beginning defined his end. School wasn't a place of hope for Arun. It was a constant reminder that he was behind. He struggled to keep up in class not because he wasn't intelligent, but because hunger made it hard to focus and exhaustion made learning slow. Teachers mistook his silence for a lack of interest. Classmates mistook his simplicity for weakness. Laughter followed him, not loud, obvious laughter, the quiet kind. The cruel kind. You won't go far, someone once whispered behind his back. He pretended not to hear, but the words stayed with him, echoing in his mind. At home, the struggle continued. His father's health got worse. The little savings they had vanished, replaced by medical bills. Arguments filled the house, never about love, always about survival. More than once, Arun overheard his parents talking about pulling him out of school. He's old enough to work now, a relative said. That night, Arun lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his heart racing. Was this it? Was his story already decided for him? By the age of 14, Arun felt much older than his years. He woke up before sunrise, helped his mother with chores, walked miles to school, came home to more responsibilities, and studied late into the night by a dim flickering light. Still, progress felt invisible. Friends started dropping out of school. Some moved away to find work. Others just accepted life as it was. There were moments Arun wanted to do the same. Moments when he thought, maybe this is all life has for me. But deep inside, buried beneath the fear and the fatigue, something resisted. It wasn't hope, not yet. It was just resistance. A stubborn refusal to disappear quietly. A refusal to let his story end before it had even truly begun. This was Arun's breaking point. Not a loud, dramatic shatter, but a quiet, internal shift. A decision made in the darkness that he would not break. He would bend, he would ache, but he would not be broken. This single moment of defiance was the spark that would ignite an incredible fire. A fire that no one, not even Arun himself, could have ever predicted. The questions started quietly. They came late at night, when the village slept and the world felt still. Arun would lie awake, listening to the sound of insects outside and his parents' slow breathing inside. Why does life feel harder for some people? Is effort enough, or is fate already decided? If I keep trying, Will anything actually change? He didn't have answers, but he was tired of pretending he didn't need them. One evening, while walking home from school, a sudden rainstorm forced Arun to take shelter under an old shed near the edge of the village. It was a forgotten place, with broken shelves and dust-covered corners. Inside, he found something unexpected. Books, old ones, torn covers, yellowed pages, left behind by someone long ago. Most people would have ignored them. Arun didn't. He picked one up and began to read by the fading daylight. The words were simple but powerful stories of people who had failed repeatedly before succeeding, people who had started with nothing and built something meaningful. One line stopped him cold. Your circumstances explain your pain, but they do not excuse your surrender. That sentence followed him home. He returned to the shed the next day. And the day after that. Those books became his secret world, his escape, his teacher, his mirror. For the first time, Arun saw people who had started just as broken, just as uncertain. And yet they hadn't stopped. Slowly, a dangerous idea formed in his mind. What if my beginning isn't a curse, but a test? Arun began to observe life differently. He noticed how some people accepted suffering as identity, while others treated it as a phase. He saw how discipline outlasted motivation, and how effort compounded quietly. The village hadn't changed. His home hadn't changed. But something inside him had. He didn't know how to escape yet, but he knew he didn't want to stay the same. And that was enough to keep going. The turning point didn't come with applause. It came with failure. Arun failed a critical exam, the kind that determined whether a student could continue higher education. The news hit his family hard. Relatives shook their heads. Teachers looked unsurprised. This is where it ends, someone said. That night, Arun sat alone outside his house, staring at the dark sky. His chest felt tight. His hands trembled. Everything he feared was happening. And for the first time, quitting felt logical. But then he remembered something from one of the books. Rock bottom is not the end unless you decide to sit there. That was the moment Arun made a choice, not a dramatic one. A quiet one. He decided that if the world was going to count him out, he would stop asking for permission to continue. He stopped waiting to be believed in. He began waking earlier, studying longer, practicing when others rested. He learned from mistakes instead of hiding from them. No one noticed. And that was okay, because this time Arun wasn't working for praise. He was working for change. There were days when motivation disappeared completely, days when exhaustion screamed louder than ambition. But Arun showed up anyway. He studied under streetlights when electricity failed. He worked small jobs to support his family and fund his education. He failed again, but less badly each time. Slow progress, real progress. For the first time, failure didn't feel like proof of weakness. It felt like feedback. And that changed everything. Years later, Arun would understand what he was learning during those silent, painful days. Struggle was never meant to stop him. It was meant to build him. Every insult hardened his skin. Every failure sharpened his focus. Every delay tested his patience. Pain was not evidence that he was on the wrong path. It was evidence that he was walking one at all. Arun learned that talent opens doors, but discipline keeps them open. That confidence grows from action, not from waiting. That resilience is built when quitting feels easiest. Most importantly, he learned this. No one is coming to save you. And that realization, while terrifying, was also freeing. Because if no one was coming, then his life was his responsibility. And his potential was his decision. Success didn't make Arun's life easy, it made it honest. With growth came pressure, expectations, and responsibility. People began relying on him, not just for results, but for direction. The same fear he once had returned, but in a different form. What if I lose everything I fought so hard to build? There were moments when exhaustion crept back in. Moments when old doubts whispered, "You don't belong here." But Arun had learned something crucial during his hardest years. Fear doesn't disappear when you succeed. You simply learn how to walk with it. Instead of running, he faced it. He failed again, and this time, it was public. A project collapsed, money was lost. Critics appeared, and some people quietly stepped away. And yet, Arun didn't break, because failure no longer felt like the end of the road. It felt familiar. The old Arun feared failure because he thought it proved something about his worth. The new Arun understood that failure was just information. So he adjusted, he learned, he rebuilt. And this time, he did it faster, stronger, and smarter. That's when he realized the truth. His struggle had trained him for moments just like this. All those years of being ignored, doubted, and underestimated hadn't ruined him. They had prepared him. As Arun's life stabilized, he made a quiet promise to himself. I will become the person I once searched for. Not a hero, not a savior, just proof. Proof that broken beginnings are not dead ends. He started mentoring young people who reminded him of himself. Those who spoke softly but dreamed loudly, whose talent was hidden beneath fear and circumstance. He didn't just tell them to believe in themselves. He told them to build themselves. Belief comes later, he'd say. Discipline comes first, and slowly he watched others rise. Not because he carried them, but because he showed them it was possible to carry themselves. One evening years later, Arun returned alone to that old, abandoned shed, the place where everything had changed. A grand library now stood nearby, filled with light, books, and students. Laughter replaced silence. Curiosity replaced fear. He stood there quietly, with no cameras, no applause, no celebration, just a profound sense of gratitude. He realized then that the greatest victory wasn't success, it was continuity. It was the simple fact that he hadn't quit. This story isn't really about talent, luck, or even success. It's about refusal. The refusal to let pain define your identity. The refusal to surrender to a weak beginning. The refusal to disappear quietly. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because they stop too early. They mistake a difficult chapter for the end of the story. Arun's journey is a reminder that your past doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can be a training ground. The very things that once broke you can become the tools you use to build your future. The real challenge isn't avoiding failure. It's outlasting it. It's about showing up one more time than you feel like quitting. Your quiet victory is waiting. Change didn't arrive suddenly. It arrived quietly, almost invisibly. Months turned into years, and Arun's life began to shift in ways few people noticed at first. He passed the exam he had once failed, then another, then one more. Each success was small, but together, they formed a powerful momentum. When he received his first scholarship letter, his hands shook as he opened it. It wasn't a magic ticket to solve everything, but it was proof. Proof that his effort mattered. Proof that his discipline worked. Proof that his story was still alive and being written. Leaving his village for the city was terrifying. The buildings were taller. The pace was faster. The people seemed more confident. Arun felt out of place all over again, just like he had in that old classroom. But this time was different. This time he didn't mistake discomfort for defeat. He knew it was just part of the process. He studied relentlessly. He worked part-time jobs, whatever he could find. He failed presentations in front of his new classmates. He missed opportunities that slipped through his fingers. And through it all, he just kept going. Slowly, something unexpected began to happen. People started to listen when he spoke. They didn't know about his past. They didn't see the broken beginning, the doubt, the struggle. They only saw the consistency, the resilience, the results he was starting to produce. Arun built skills. Then, he built confidence. And from that confidence, he built opportunities for himself. Years later, he stood in a place he once thought was completely unreachable. He wasn't rich, and he wasn't famous, but he was something far more valuable. He was unstoppable in his spirit. He had built a life defined not by where he started, but by how long he had refused to stop. The day Arun returned to his village was quiet. There were no banners, no grand announcements. He walked the same muddy roads, passed the same familiar houses, and heard the same comforting sounds of his childhood. But he wasn't the same boy who had once walked them barefoot with doubt heavy in his chest. He visited his old school and spoke to the students. He saw kids who reminded him of himself, silent, overlooked, and uncertain about their future. But he didn't tell them glamorous success stories. He told them his struggle stories. He told them the truth. He said, "I wasn't special, I wasn't the smartest. I just didn't quit." He helped build a small library right near the old shed where his own journey had changed so profoundly. He funded education, not as charity, but as an act of belief. Because he understood something deeply now. When you rise, you don't leave your roots behind, you strengthen them. You give back. So if you're listening to this and you feel behind in life, if your beginning feels broken, if your circumstances are telling you to lower your expectations, I need you to hear this clearly. Your past does not own your future. You are not late. You are not weak. You are not incapable. You are in progress. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards persistence. It rewards the people who keep showing up. So keep showing up when no one is watching. Keep building when the results feel painfully slow. Keep believing in yourself, even when doubt feels louder than hope. Because one day, without any warning, everything will shift. The momentum will take over. And people will look at you and call you an overnight success. They'll call you lucky. Let them, because you'll know the truth. You'll know that your unstoppable life didn't begin with privilege or luck. It began the moment you refused to quit. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Keep building.